Hello, everyone. I'm Carly Ann. Thank you so much for joining us today, and happy Latinx Heritage Month. We are so honored to be a part of the Portalistas Latinas Make a Difference Summit this year, and I'm very excited to be in conversation with our guest today. There's been such an increase in entrepreneurship in the past year, and Latinas are starting businesses at higher and higher rates. So it's amazing that we have this opportunity to learn from Julissa Prado, the founder and CEO of Rizos Curls. We're going to hear more about her inspiring journey, how she started the business, and also we're going to have her share some tips on the art of navigating starting a business as a side hustle while working a 9 to 5, which I know that's something that a lot of you aspiring entrepreneurs are trying to figure out yourselves. So Julissa and I were gonna chat for about 20 minutes, followed by about 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A. Please leave your questions in the comment section of this YouTube Live, and Julissa will be addressing a couple of them at the end. So before we jump in, here's a bit about Julissa. She was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and is the founder and CEO of Rizos Curls, a clean hair care line aimed at embracing and celebrating the beauty of curls, coils, and waves everywhere. After years of making her own curly cocktail and being the curl whisperer within her community, Julissa decided to launch her own hair care line. This brand has amassed a global following of Rizos Reinas, becoming a favorite among the curly hair community, shipped to over 57 countries and available at Target stores nationwide. So, hi, Julissa.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So let's jump right into it. I would love to hear more about your background and share with our community what initially sparked your interest in entrepreneurship as a child, and what were some of those pivotal moments that led up to you starting Rizos Curls?
Yeah. So I love to always say that a business, pretty much what it is simply a solution to a problem. So Rizos Curls was literally my solution to my own personal problem of not knowing what products to use to style my own hair. And I pretty much just started out. I was making my own concoctions of different products that I was mixing, and I was styling my hair. And I would meet so many women, especially that I call undercover curlies. So it's women that would straighten their hair so much so you would never even know they had curly hair. And I would help them with their hair, and I would meet so many of these people. So that's really where the inspiration and the passion for hair and this business came from, was from genuinely having that problem myself and then finding a solution to that problem I had, and then wanting it to share it with other people.
All right, so one of the incredible things about your story, and it's great that you've been transparent about the fact that you started this business while working at Nestle. So, can you just tell us a bit about life before Rizos Curls, and at the time of starting it, how did you go about navigating that? Because I think there's this misconception that if you are serious about entrepreneurship, you should drop everything and dedicate 100% of your time to your business. And that's not feasible for a lot of people. And, tell us how you navigated the starting this business while working your 9 to 5.
Yeah. So I, from the beginning, knew that I wanted to be self-funded, and I knew that I didn't want to take outside investment. So I understood that my job, my 9 to 5, was very important to almost like be my investor and make sure, I have bills to pay, I have things to pay in my own personal life. And so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like stressed out and not being able to pay for things. And also it allowed me to save money from, my own earnings and be able to invest that into my business. So I really looked at my 9 to 5 as my first investor. So I was working, and as much as I could save, I was investing it into my business. I even part of having that 9 to 5, it was a great job, and I was so grateful for being able to have that job. And I felt, especially coming from where I came from, I felt like, oh, I was getting paid so amazing. I really thought like this is as good as it gets, like I have a great paying job, and et cetera. I never really thought that my side hustle, my side passion was going to end up allowing me to leave that completely and just focus full time on that. So I will say from the very beginning, I always thought I was going to be able to balance both, and I was going to keep my full-time job in corporate and do my Rizos curls on the side as a side hustle. But Destiny had had a different plan, and within the first year of launching, I was able to, I was pretty much kind of forced almost to leave my full-time job because I was so busy with my side hustle. But in order to do that, like I made a lot of sacrifices that are not necessarily sacrifices, but it's like I wasn't completely comfortable. So for example, like I decided to move back in with my parents. I cut down huge on expenses. I made a lot of decisions to ensure that I could quit my job, and I didn't have to rely so heavily on taking money from my business.
That's so amazing. And, like there's so much trial and error that's, goes into starting a business. Can you just, share what the process was like for you starting a hair care line from scratch? Like what was that, product development, experimentation process like, and what were some of the lessons that you learned from that?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because I hear a lot of like new trends that people associate with being Western American, like a new thing. And it's like holistic medicine, like farm to table, organic, natural this. And people associate that with like new and Western and trend. And I'm like, there's nothing more Latino than all of those things. There's nothing more Latino than relying on the earth and having these teachings that come from generations. It's very, very immigrant. It's a very much thing that a lot of immigrants have in common, that they come from countries that they don't really have a choice to go and buy things over the counter all the time. Like one of their first methods of healing for themselves and their bodies is holistically, is with plants, is with plant medicine, is with their environment and what they have around them. A lot of their food, there's a different perception that they have with food, because a lot of the food, my parents, for example, grew up where every single thing that they ate, they literally had to grow. It's not like they were going out and buying all this stuff. Like, no, like they were planting the seed and watching it grow and then eating the fruit or the vegetable, etc. So that's what I came from. So for me, it's something very much embedded in my culture, embedded in my family, embedded in my traditions, embedded in my childhood, the idea of turning to the earth first to care for myself. So when I didn't find things that I liked for my own hair, it was very normal for me to growing up to turn to my grandmother's teachings, to my mother's teachings, and go get this aloe vera, scoop up the jelly, make my scalp, little scrub, do this, do this. So, me creating and looking at ingredients as medicine and as alternatives to caring for yourself um, is something that came very normal. And I think that that is really what the formulas and the products are based on. It's based on choosing ingredients that are not just don't just make your hair look beautiful at the moment, but also good for the long-term health of your scalp and hair.
And what were some lessons that you learned, or advice that you would give to someone who is starting a hair care line, for instance? What were some of the greatest lessons that you learned in that process of developing your product?
Specifically the hair care line?
Yeah.
Oh man. I've learned so much. I've learned, I think, throughout the years and starting from the beginning when I used to help other women with their own hair, and I was able to get my hands in people's hair, and also down to the product development and being like with real chemists and like looking at the behind the scenes of the ingredients. I learned so much about how important it is to really be conscious of what ingredients and what you are putting on your skin, on your scalp, on your hair, and how much power there is in that and how it affects you. I think for me, it's made me even more conscious, not just in hair care, what ingredients I choose to use, but also in every other aspect, like lotions and face care and anything that I put on my body. I'm way more skeptical, and I'm like looking at ingredients and I'm understanding the value. Like I love the fact that I'm able to be in the place where I can educate myself on things that I don't know and ensure that everything has a purpose that I'm putting on my body, and I'm avoiding things that are not good for me. I think in hair care, man, when I things that I used to, or I've seen people use in their hair, I used to use in my hair when I was like a little girl and didn't realize. I'm like, what? That's so bad and for me, and like I wouldn't want that on my scalp or on my skin. So that would be the biggest thing that I've learned, I would say, is like to understand ingredients and understand their purpose and understand how they can affect your health.
Amen. There's so many things on labels that we don't understand sometimes.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go back a bit to like you talking about being self-funded, and like your business is fully Latina funded business.
Yeah, me.
We talk about why that's so important for you, having self-fund your business.
Yeah, I think that for me, I understood that what was important for my business wasn't just like the curls aspect. Within the business, I have the mission that I call Curls Community Culture. I'm like, we are the 3 C's. And each one of them is just as important as the curls aspect. And I felt like an investor or somebody outside wouldn't necessarily understand the importance of those 3 components and would want to make decisions that would, possibly jeopardize the community and culture part, but would maximize profits. And so I knew that what I was trying to build was something very new. I didn't want to adhere to any conventional corporate norms. I didn't want to adhere to anybody else's ideas of how to run a business. I wanted to prove that you could build a socially conscious, a sustainable, a profitable, a diverse, self-funded, not completely Latina-owned business with a lot of ethics and all of these values that I are very important to me, with good work-life balance, with a great diverse team, like all of these things that I wanted. And I needed to prove not just to other people, but like to myself that like we can do this. Like there's the business world doesn't have to be in one way. You don't have to be like miserable at your job. Like you don't have to be so stuffy. You don't have to adhere to all this corporate culture that really has no reasoning in order to get ahead. You know, you don't have to like, I feel like sometimes we normalize things within business, like a lot of traditions in business, like, oh, Wall Street, it's business, all is fair in business, you're gonna walk all over this and whatever. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to hate your job, first one in, last one out. It's like, no. Yes, I believe in working hard, but I also believe in loving what you do. With like, it's not fun. And Rizos Kobe says this all the time. I'm like, if it's not fun, it's not worth it. We try to make sure that the company culture, we're enjoying what we're doing. We all choose to be here. And we feel like it translates. If we're happy, it translates to the customer.
And that's so powerful to hear how thoughtful you were about that approach. Because when it comes to starting a company, like obviously there are a lot of ways to fund businesses, and some forms are trendy, whether it's venture capital, but you have to be mindful about how you want your company to grow and how much control you want over it. So that's really powerful to see that you've been able to self-fund your business and think about it holistically and how your community and staff are also being impacted.
100%.
All right, so before we go to questions, I would love to hear from you like a few of, or a couple of like the biggest lessons that you've learned, or tell us about a couple of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome and how you navigated those.
Yeah. I think one of the big challenges that we overcame was almost like there's a couple, but I'll start with one of the biggest things that we're constantly overcoming, and I feel like we have been able to navigate, we're trying to navigate it well, is our path towards bringing Rizos curls and bringing other like Latina owned brands towards mainstream and showing that it's deserving of mainstream audiences. I think that when we were first entering into a lot of these spaces, we were literally the first. Like we were in so many spaces where we would be in meetings and they're like, you will be the first Latina owned brand here. You will be the first self-funded brand here. You're the first. And I would be entering these spaces and I would realize that very quickly, I would literally walk out of meetings that they would say things like, oh, Latinos, they don't care about natural. You have too many natural ingredients here. I think you should just bring the price down, buy cheaper ingredients. You can add, instead of these natural oils and butters, like that are more expensive, use silicones and other harsh chemicals. Latinos don't care about the natural, they care about coupons. And to me, it was a lot of work in the beginning, a lot of groundwork of like not just understanding who I even want to bring my community to and who I want to work with and who I want to represent me and represent each other, but also the education piece of like making sure that every interaction that I have with these people where we would possibly be the first, they leave knowing like we have our ducks in a row, like we know what we're talking about, and you just missed out on a great opportunity because of your own preconceived stereotypes and assumptions that are not based on any statistics and any facts. So we've encountered a lot of that, unfortunately. And I think that we're at the place now that we've found really great partners that don't try to like put those assumptions on us and are more open-minded and are and understand the value of another diverse brand and understand that, there's a lot of value in working with us. So I'm really happy with our path so far, and I'm hoping to be able to continue educating and continue whenever we're first in spaces, continue having a good relationship to ensure that we're not the last.
Amazing. And you were recently, you got into Ultra Beauty
Yes.
a few months ago, which is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I guess just another note on that, like what, is there like a tip or tips that you can give? Like the education piece is so important when you're creating products for, communities that are underrepresented, and then beyond that, there's, sort of managing those relationships over time. What kind of tips would you, or what's like one tip that you would give someone on how to go about like maintaining, a great relationship with an account?
Like a retailer?
Yeah.
Oh, that is a great question. I think for us, we have had to be very transparent and very honest with a lot of these retail partners that we have, and do a lot of like, transparency and dialogue and explaining how we can't be compared apples to apples to some of these huge beauty conglomerates that have millions, if not billions of dollars for all of these marketing campaigns, and have businesses that are set up to like never be profitable, and they can just spend for these marketing initiatives and etc. Like we almost had to explain, like, since we are the first in this space that looks like us, we cannot compete on the same level as these types of businesses in regards to what you expect of money from us. Like, these are the margin that you are giving us. This is like, if we were to pay for this marketing initiative, this is how much money we have left, which means we will go bankrupt. Like, if you want to work with us, you're going to have to work with us on figuring out margins, figuring out, numbers that make sense for both of us, because we are self-funded. So we need that profit in order to reinvest it back into the business. Like, we don't have outside funding that we can rely on to make up the difference. Cause like, there is just so much of that going on. And I think that sometimes in business, you almost get discouraged to be that transparent and that honest and that like, let me just tell you the deal. Like, let me just tell you what's up. Because you feel like, I don't want them to think this of me. Like, it's almost like you feel like you have to just like, that's the way it is. And that's the way it's been done. And I'm just going to follow the rules because that is what it is. And for me, it's like, we question everything. They're like, everybody is in this initiative. This is what outlining how doing business works. And I'll be like, actually, like, this doesn't work for us. Like, this is that. And I think that any other business that's small, self-funded, etc., it's like, that's the only way you're going to survive in these spaces, is being transparent and being honest and understanding your business and understanding that you cannot have the same expectations and nobody else can either from you than like the huge big conglomerates.
That's such great advice, and thanks for sharing that. There's this whole like fake it till you make it notion that people go around with, or seeming bigger than you are. So that's such a great piece of advice for our audience. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I mean, I still do that. I always did that too, but also
know when to do it.
Yeah, it's like once you're there, you're like, no, you're not making me pay all this money. Like,
All right. So one more question before we kick to Q&A. What are some changes you would like to see in the future for the Latinx business ecosystem?
I would love to see more Latino-owned businesses, more, women of color-owned businesses, not just in front of the scenes, like on ads, etc., whatever in the mainstream space, but behind the scenes too. I want to see more brands being carried in my mainstream spaces. I want to see them taking up more space in outside of like just like their little niche, because sometimes I feel like especially like people of color owned brands kind of get put into a different category of like, oh, you see that they're not viewed as the norm. You're just viewed as like, oh, you only belong in this like section over here that's collecting dust and etc., and not like on mainstream, not for mainstream audiences. And I think that that's a huge missed opportunity. And we see so much creativity, so much innovation, so much of what customers are really hungry for coming out of a lot of these like indie brands that are led by really talented people of color. And I think that I would love to see more retailers stepping up and analyzing and seeing their own policies and their own structures that could be keeping these types of talented business from having access to their spaces.
Yes, love that. All right, so let's take a couple questions from the audience. All right, so Brittany would like to know, how many hours a week did you dedicate to your side hustle when you had a full-time job?
Girl, too much. Like I was not sleeping. There was in the beginning, before I launched, it was, I think I would, maybe be done with work around like 5:30, and then I would like work, I don't know, until probably like 10 p.m. or something, and then I would work on the weekends. But once I actually launched, it was just like out of control. I just felt like I had 3 full-time jobs or something, which is when I ultimately decided that I couldn't do it. I was like, this is too much. But I would say dedicate as much as time that feels good to you, because I think for me, I was so invested. I felt like nothing else existed, and it was even hard for me to concentrate on my day job, because once I launched, it was like all I wanted to do, like I was like, I don't even want to go to sleep. I was those little kids that didn't even want to go to sleep because I wanted to spend time on this thing that I was so passionate about.
All right, Belen would like to know, you are described as an entrepreneur who credits the lows as much as the highs for her success. What was a low, and how did you pick yourself up and keep going?
I think that, man, I think that sometimes you really need to get back to like the roots of like what it is that you're doing, what it is that you love. Like sometimes I feel like, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I'm like, I get into the routine of things, and it's almost like life just starts happening on like autopilot, and I forget to enjoy each moment. I forget to like think about me, think about like really live in the present, because I'm going so fast and I'm thinking far ahead so much that all of a sudden, like it's like a week went by and it was just like, what just happened? I felt like I was like in a video game, in a movie that just someone pressed play and like there wasn't a stop. And I think that for me, quarantine especially kind of forced me to get back into myself and like almost like ground myself and be more aware and more conscious when I begin to do this, and when I begin to get into this place where it's like I almost become numb, and just begin grounding myself and being conscious about this. So for example, for me, I started trying to meditate. I started doing things that were allowed me to like clear my mind and like be more present in what is happening. And I think it made me make better decisions in my business too.
All right. So you got your self-care routine worked in there now.
Yeah, it's like, it's so necessary.
All right. Ariana wants to know, how big is your team now? Do you have future plans to look at more sustainable packaging or refill programs?
Yeah. So in regards to packaging, man, packaging has been, first of all, a nightmare since COVID started. Wow, it's been a nightmare with regards to production. And what a lot of people don't realize is like behind the scenes, it is really, really hard in regards to sourcing packaging, especially dealing with minimums. So a lot of the time when people say like sustainable packaging, I would love to get to a point where I can do that. It's kind of a privilege to be able to be at that place, because if you start small, the minimums that a lot of these companies have in order for you to be able to afford that are even higher than the norm. So it's like, unless you're that big and you're able to not only buy that much in bulk at a time and you have the money to like pay up front for that much, you have somewhere to even put it. You know, like you have a space to even store it, a big enough space to even store it that far ahead. So there's just, it's very, I think the behind it, it's very easy like to want something and it's like, I'm with you 100%, I want it too, but it's a whole other thing when you are trying to work in a space that isn't set up for that. You know what I mean? Like the industry out there, there's like very limited options, and these very few limited options are only working with like these big time brands and with big time minimums and money. And it's just like, it's very complicated, but I completely agree and I'm with you. As far as how big my team is now, I would say around like 10 people. We're small but mighty, and we wear many different hats. And a lot of us, you know, my team is more very junior, but it's literally very diverse too. Pretty much everybody on my team is born and raised in Los Angeles, all Black or brown, and just like really raw, pure talent. And a lot of them are either friends or family. So it's been kind of nice to be able to work with people that I've known for a long time, and then also outsource and meet new people that are really talented from the communities I grew up in. So yeah, I'm very happy.
All right, Mel wants to know, what advice do you have for marketing for a new brand trying to get their product seen?
So first and foremost, I would really recommend for you to understand your target demographic. And what I mean by this is understanding who it is that you're like ideal person that you are serving with your products. Like, who is it going to benefit the most? Who is that ideal person? And then you understand them like they are your best friend. So an exercise that I like to do is I like to actually make a character profile for this target demographic person and kind of think of them as like a single person. I almost like draw them out. What does their hair look like? What is their height? What do they wear? What brands do they follow? What is their favorite music? What is their favorite foods? Like, you know, understanding every aspect of this person. And that kind of lays a roadmap for the types of decisions that you want to make in your business, maybe the types of other inspiration that you want to draw from, maybe other collaborations that you might want to do. So I think that for me, it's given me a really clear path on the type of marketing initiatives and marketing strategies that I want to do once I have a very clear focus on who it is that I'm serving. And also, the bigger the demographic and the less focused you are, the more marketing money you need to reach them. And if you just focus on like one specific type of person, for other people will come outside of that niche as well, but it will cost you way less to reach that one specific focus.
All right, so we're gonna take one last question. So this is from Charlotte. Did Target reach out to you or did you reach out to them?
The customers reached out to them. If for people that want to meet buyers and meet, retailers, there are trade shows that you can go to as a business and have access to them walking the show and like seeing your brand. Like for example, Cosmoprof trade show, and they have them all over the US and even the world. I think they even have some outside of the US as well. But specifically what happened with Target was that we had, oh my God, like our customers are the ones that kind of like got us on their radar because they were tagging them and like commenting on their pages, like, can you carry at Rizos curls? And
that's amazing.
That is what happened. That is how we got on their radar.
That is amazing. Like the people who are showing the demand, reaching out on your behalf does not get any better.
Yeah, because a lot of people will reach out to us like, why aren't you offered at Target? And I'm like, I don't know, talk to them. I would love to be sold there. And then they're like, say less.
Love it. Well, Julissa, it's been so inspiring learning more about your story and just looking at all of the things that you've accomplished building Rizos Curls. Thank you so much for taking the time and being a part of this and for dropping all these gems for our audience. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having me here.
You're welcome. And your hair looks amazing. Every time I see your hair looks amazing. What products do you use?
God. Rizos Girls.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, everyone who tuned in tonight. I'd like to also thank Podalistas for including us in your amazing Latinas Make a Difference Summit. For those of you who tuned in, if you'd like to learn more about Parsons Entrepreneur Academy, visit parsonsentrepreneur.com. Have a great evening, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the summit.
Bye. Thank you.
My name is Claudia Mata, and I am the founder of Vertly. We are a California clean skincare line based here in Northern California, and we make skincare using freshly extracted botanicals that are grown by our local farmers and herbalists, and we make everything in small batches and fresh weekly. We have a great opportunity as female Latina founders to create the changes that we want to see in business and in life for female workers. We can do this through our company culture. We can do this through our hiring practices. For me, having a culturally diverse team was a really important priority when building my company. Currently, I've hired predominantly Latinas to work in my facility. And because we're a small brand, everyone has to wear many different hats. And so it's been a really great opportunity and privilege to see everyone grow and build new skill sets. And really thrive and help our company thrive all under this one roof. Also, as founders, we can really help create a better work-life balance, which ultimately just really helps families. You can do this through shortened work weeks, through flex hours, through accommodations for various people's childcare needs. We're a small brand and we offer this. And hopefully, this will create a ripple effect for other larger brands to start doing this. And hopefully this will create more positive changes for other people's work-life balance in our community as well.